Every Easter, one brave bunny takes on a very important mission. Spreading Easter joy. And apparently dropping most of it. And sometimes there's goat-related complications. Skincare's so good even the goats might want it. Because Easter is really about the greatest victory ever. Hope, renewal, and a promise kept. And every soft disclosure purchase supports 6 small American businesses working together. Use code GRACE for 15% off. Soft disclosure, good for your skin, and apparently approved by goats.
You know we're going to hell, right?
Your commercials. Oh my gosh.
I said last night on Culture of Change that Angel John Harold looks like he would be the character in like a Homeland or similarly situated series that's the professor of Middle Eastern studies that turns out to be a terrorist. He looks like that central casting.
Oh man, that is nuts. Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Badlands Book Club.
It was the best frozen face ever.
Oh, I was frozen?
Yeah. So President Trump is signing an election integrity executive order, apparently, right now, voter integrity. Like right now, happening now. It's streaming over. Jessica's streaming it on Badlands. So we'll definitely be checking that out after the show.
Well, hold on. Let's tune in for a second because that is directly related.
Here, it's link in chat.
I got it.
Did they say they're going to blow them up? They're going to hit them. They're not. They're not going to do. They're not going to hit them with.
Did you already sign it? Hold on.
And I think I don't know how it can be. It's a.
But on properly verify that everybody voting in their election.
Yeah. Let's go.
They'll be signing an executive order. It's. I believe it's foolproof, and maybe it'll be tested. Maybe it won't. I think it's very obvious what's said. And I'll ask Will Croft to start off, attorney, a great talent. A brilliant young man, and if you could discuss it, and then I'm going to ask Howard Lutnick to say a few words, and then I'm going to sign it. We'll take a couple of questions. Okay, thank you.
Howard Lutnick?
President, as you said, you have in front of you an executive order that deals with a number of issues relating to election integrity. As you've consistently identified, 2 of the biggest problems we have with election integrity in this country are 1, inaccurate voter rolls that allow ineligible people to vote in various federal and state elections all over the country. And secondarily, you've consistently identified that vote by mail in this country has become rife with fraud. People returning ballots who aren't eligible to return ballots being sent to people who aren't confirmed to be eligible voters. So what this executive order is going to do is 1, we're going to take federal data. We're going to ensure that each state's election officials are provided with a comprehensive view of who the eligible voters in their jurisdiction actually are, allowing them to properly verify that everybody voting in their elections is legally able to vote. And then it orders the Postmaster General, the U.S. Postal Service, to take bold new measures to verify that ballots both being sent to people are being sent to people who are eligible to vote, and then the ballots being returned or being properly returned by eligible voters only. And we believe that combined, the measures in this executive order will help secure elections in the future and ensure that the many abuses of our election system in the past aren't repeated in future elections.
Right. Howard?
So the fundamentals of our democracy are built on voter integrity, right? We all need it. You've said it time and time again. It's a total agreement amongst everybody. So here's the idea. The states, right, run these elections. They will, if they want to use the U.S. mail, U.S. Postal Service, they're going to get a code, a barcode from the U.S. Postal Service, and they're going to put that on the envelope, and we will have 1 envelope per vote. None of this time where we have no idea, there's no observers to mail, there's no envelopes, there's no certainty. That's all going to go away. And what the president is doing today is he's going to make sure that mail-in ballots are safe, secure, and accurate, and will have a clear distinction. If you voted by mail, you will have it on the envelope, obviously not on the ballot, but on the envelope. So we will know 1 million mail-in ballots There'll be 1 million envelopes, and you'll be able to know exactly, correctly, that citizens voted.
And this came up with some great legal minds. They looked at the various documents and everything that was going on, because the cheating on mail-in voting is legendary. It's horrible what's gone on. And it's very clearly covered, very, very clearly. So I think this will help a lot with elections. We'd like to have voter ID. We'd like to have proof of citizenship, and that'll be another subject for another time. We're working on that. You would think it would be easy. It's a 98% issue for Republicans. It's 86%. Thing just came out, a poll, and it's 86% with Republicans and Democrats, not leaders, because the leaders of the Democrats cheat. And the only people that don't want to do voter ID are people that cheat. There's no other reason for it. Proof of citizenship, they want to be able to cheat. There's no reason. They have all sorts of reasons, excuses, but it's all nonsense. They want to cheat. But the Democrats themselves are very high. It's a very positive, very, very good thing. The Democrat voters, the Democrat leaders, guys like Schumer, who are corrupt, they want to use it for cheating because their policy is so bad. With, think of their policy: open borders for everybody, where people pour into our country from countries all over the world. Think of that. You look at, just take any issue, take anything, everything they have is so crazy. But the fact that they don't want to sign voter ID is another issue. It's a big issue. The fact that they don't have proof of citizenship, that they want transgender for everybody, that they want men in women's sports. So the only way, they assume, the only way they can win is to cheat. When you have men in women's sports, it's fine. It's wonderful. By the way, I worked very hard with the Olympic Committee and got that terminated for the Olympics. Very nice. Now, the girls won't have to get beat up in the boxing ring like they did last time. If you saw those fights, two people that transitioned beat the hell out of everyone, out of other people, women. It was not a pretty sight to watch. So I worked very hard with the Olympic Committee, and we were able to get that out. So the Olympics will not have men in women's sports. But these are the things that they vote on. And that's why we're having a problem with them. They don't want ICE because they don't want people to be taken out of our country that are murderers, that are drug dealers, and that are people from mental institutions, the criminally insane. These are not nice people. And it's amazing. I just, it's not even believable. If you go back 12, 13, 15, 20 years, that we even have to bring up a subject like there will be no trans mutilation. We don't want any transgender mutilization of our children. We don't want to have people pouring into our country from other countries all over the world, where prisons are opened up all over the world. They're opened up and they pour into our country. Murderers, 11,888 murderers. Think of that. We got many of them out. And by the way, Washington, D.C. just set a new record for safety. And I'm sure you know that because, Peter, when you walk down the street, you're not mugged lately. But it's a very safe city now. We took great pains to make it that way, but it actually happened pretty quickly. Within 3 months, it was good. Within 4 months, it was very good. Within 5 months, it was great. Now it's better than it ever was. And so Washington, D.C. is now considered a very, very safe city. We removed almost 4,000 people, just so you understand. You know, an interesting stat is that 2% of the people create more than 90% of the crime. And the good thing about that is when you get rid of 2%, it's not that many, you don't have a lot of crime. But Washington, D.C., we're very proud of. We're very proud of Memphis, Tennessee, and Louisiana. And New Orleans is unbelievable. They're the safest. They just finished their Mardi Gras. They had the safest Mardi Gras in 58 years. The governor just called me. Jeff Landry just called me. He said, it's the safest Mardi Gras in 58 years because of us. And really, Chicago should call and say, we'd like help. New York should call. They've had a lot of problems that we want help. Los Angeles should call and probably will. I think they have to. Now, we're going to have to do something when it comes World Cup time, and we're going to have to force ourselves upon them, which we have the right to do, because we don't want to have any crime. We don't want to have any problems for the Olympics and the World Cup, and even for 250. So with all of that, I'm very happy to be signing the voter integrity, and I think it's going to be really great. So if you don't mind, I will take some time and I'll make the signature absolutely perfect. So it looks very good. So far, so good. Okay, so that's a big deal. Very proud of it. And I think, I don't know how it can be challenged. You'll probably challenge it. You may say, find a rogue judge. You get a lot of rogue judges, very bad people, very bad judges. But that's the only way that can be changed. And hopefully we'll win an appeal if it is, but I don't see how anybody can challenge it. I don't see how they can challenge it. And remember, it's about voter integrity. We want to have honest voting in our country, because if you don't have honest voting, you can't have really a nation, if you want to know the truth. Howard, I'll give that to you. Do you have any questions, please?
Yes, Mr. President. As you know, right now, DHS, we funded, Coast Guard is one of them, which is very important, especially when things going on with the news and here in our own country. You have the power to transfer control from the Department of Homeland Security to the Navy. Are you considering doing that?
No, I have a lot of powers to do
What?
things. We use the powers where
Transferring
appropriate.
power from the DHS
Sometimes
to the
you don't have
Navy.
to use those powers. You know, they're a little severe. And then people accuse me of being a king. You see, the king, this is the new one. They've been trying for a long time, including 4 years where I was out of office watching how badly this country
That's
was
probably
run.
good on the voting thing.
They've been trying for a long time.
Let me see if we get
That's
a
what
question on
happened.
it.
They allowed this entire, it's a good thing. And yet,
Able to sign the executive order to the TSA agents?
Yeah, they're just talking about the DHS stuff and all that. So interesting executive order. Haven't read it. Did not even know this was coming today.
So in chapter I'm just going to foreshadow probably next week, but in chapter 13 of this book, under recommendations and immediate actions, the number one recommendation for immediate action is to issue a national security finding and executive action, formally declaring U.S. Infrastructure security priority and foreign interference, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I haven't had a chance to read the CO. I did put the link to it in the private chat and in the regular chat. But it'll be interesting to see how the recommendations and suggestions line up with the stuff that's happening right now, because there's so much stuff happening right now with elections.
So it sounds like mail-in ballots now are going to have a barcode, so we know the exact number.
Yeah.
That's all it's really going to do is you're going to know the exact number of ballots that went out and that were returned, so that when they're counting till the wee hours of the morning, they won't be able to pull that off anymore. So you won't be able to have the mass injections like we did in Detroit and Georgia and some other states, Arizona as well. So interesting. I mean, it still doesn't get us there, but we'll take it. Take everything.
Yeah. It goes after fake voters and fake ballots, though. I like that.
I don't know
I
as
like
much fake voters, but it definitely goes
does.
ballots.
Here in section 2, establishment and transmission of state citizenship lists and prioritization of investigations and prosecutions related to election fraud. Those state citizenship lists shall be derived from the federal citizenship and naturalization records, Social Security Administration records, save data, and other relevant federal databases. The state citizenship list shall be updated and transmitted to state election officials no fewer than 60 days before each regularly scheduled federal election or promptly upon request by a state in connection with any special federal election. And it goes on, but it does, and then section B of that, for purposes of this order, an individual is eligible to vote in a federal election if the individual is a citizen of the U.S., blah, blah, blah. So it is dealing with both voters and ballots.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into the book. We do have to, real quick, I forgot, we have to talk about our sponsors. Ash, you want to talk about Benson Honey?
Absolutely. Welcome to Benson Honey Farms, where every jar is pure gold. Benson Honey is excited to be back on Badlands Media with their honey harvest straight from their Nebraska farm. While they've been busy working to improve state politics from the ground up, they never forgot the importance of sharing the best honey around. Did you know honey isn't just a sweet treat? It's nature's medicine, perfect for alleviating allergies, soothing upset stomachs, or as a delicious natural sweetener for baking. Baconing. I want bacon. Benson honey is never heated, ensuring you receive it in its pure, raw form, full of natural goodness. At Benson Honey Farms, quality and purity is top priority, and they're committed to providing the finest honey from hive to home. Be sure to check out John's interview with Mo Benson on the first episode of America First Stories right here on Badlands Media. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/honey and use promo code Badlands for 20% off your purchase. Benson Honey Farms, savor the authentic taste of Nebraska and support this America First business. Follow on Facebook at Benson Honey Farms and TikTok at Mo Benson Honey, please.
All right. Let's get into chapter 12, interview with Source One.
All right,
Source One.
Can I make one comment about
Absolutely.
the executive order? The U.S. Post Office, you guys know that they're having a huge, I mean, I'm all for election integrity. Do you know that we still have illegals driving mail, right?
Oh, yeah.
I wonder if anybody mentioned that.
We also have the president of the post office right now is the former, what is it, National Vote at Home Institute founder or president? The woman running the post office right now. I don't know if she's the postmaster. I think she is the postmaster. Is the former president of the National Vote at Home Institute. You can fact check me on that. Can't remember her name off the top of my head. Somebody in the chat probably does.
So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. Concerning. Definitely concerning.
Yeah.
The post office has always been one of the concerns in the mail.
Amber McReynolds is who you're talking about.
Yeah. What's her position?
Yeah. Chairwoman, USPS Board of Governors.
There you go. That's what it was. And she's formerly of the National Vote at Home Institute. Yeah. So I had most of it down.
Colorado, too, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. She hails from Colorado.
So are we going to read the interview or are we just going to go over the highlights?
No, I thought you were going to do your accent.
Well, I think we need to read it.
I'm definitely.
I'll be Ralph. I get call Ralph.
All right, good.
Tell me a little bit about your background, where you grew up, how you got involved with Smartmatic.
I was born and raised in Venezuela and started working with Smartmatic in 2003 with the director of technology, who was actually the president of the Congress.
Okay. So can I start?
Because go ahead.
They don't have a Congress. They have a National Assembly.
Yeah.
So this is a guy that's supposedly from Venezuela, and he doesn't even know what the actual institution is called.
Yeah, that could have been a translation, but here's the thing, is he's going to say in a minute that it's Jose Rodriguez. He means Jorge Rodriguez. But here, he wasn't president of the Congress in 2003.
No.
That was a guy named, and I looked this up, and he's interesting. That's a guy named Francisco Emiliac, was president of the National Assembly of Venezuela Congress for the 2003 session, having assumed the role January 5th, 2003. He was a member of the Fifth Republic Movement Party, supporting then President Hugo Chavez during a tumultuous political period. It says also in 2008, Emiliac ran for candidature for governor of Carabobo, but lost the primary election against Mario Silva. In 2012, he finally won the election, defeating Governor Henrique Salas Feo. So, I'm assuming he meant Jorge Rodriguez, but the Emiliac guy is interesting. If you had somebody that was the president of your Congress, a supporter of Hugo Chavez, and you have rigged elections, why wouldn't he win in 2008? Why did he lose?
Well, and in 2003, they had a very mixed assembly at the time. And from my research, and I read the book that was written called Venezuelan Coup, that kind of takes us through all of the attempted overthrows by the CIA. of the Chavez and Maduro presidencies. And it said in that book that in 2003, the opposition party was the majority party in the National Assembly. So I find it very interesting that, again, if you control the elections, how does the opposition party win? Not just win, but actually control, as far as voting goes, the assembly. It literally makes no sense. But anyway.
All right, reading on.
Were you a software engineer? What was your training?
My specialty was technology systems. My university training was in social communication.
What is social communications?
I have no idea.
I read that as sort of social engineering.
Yeah.
That was loud. That was really loud.
Very loud.
Okay.
Please tell me about the circumstances that led to your involvement with Smartmatic.
It was 2003, at the time of the national referendum in Venezuela. I was sent to work at the National Electoral Council, the CNE. I worked directly for Jose Rodriguez.
Hangs out with Eddie Coomer.
Yeah, Eddie Coomer, Jose Rodriguez, they're good friends. Who was the director of technology and the president of the CNE. He reported directly to President Hugo. We call him President Hugo, not Chavez.
It's down. It's just one of those weird hard returns again.
Oh, yeah, that is. Yeah, that is weird. Another little typo there. President Hugo Chavez. My position was assistant to the director of technology. We were preparing for the election, the referendum. From the first meeting, there was a lot of talk about statistics. We were looking at polling data and voter analysis to try to figure out if Chavez was going to win the referendum or not. At a certain point, we saw clearly that Chavez was behind. He was going to lose the election. One night at dinner, a month before the election, we met with the director of the National ID Center. We were trying to figure out how many more votes were needed to guarantee a Chavez victory. We decided that we needed 1 million more votes. 1 million. An assistant.
There.
Yeah.
What? Like one night at dinner, a month or so before the election, we met with the director of the National ID Center. We were trying to figure out how many more votes we needed to guarantee a Chavez victory. More than what is my first question. We decided that we needed 1 million more votes. 1 million. This is a month before the election and based on polling data. The guys who steal elections don't understand that polls are fake.
So that's the point that I highlighted. So they're looking at polling data. Who's doing the polling? Right? And I find it hard to believe that we all know that polls are fake. Right? So you're using polling data to determine how many fake votes you need.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how any of this works. But okay, go ahead.
No, and the people with the power to control elections also control the polls.
Yes.
But we're using the fake data that we create about the electorate as the real master source data for how we're going to. What?
That's literally what they just said.
I just marked it in my book and just wrote, what?
The next paragraph gets even better.
It does.
Un assistente from Google was there.
Googly.
There was a Google assistant in Venezuela having dinner with the people about rigging an election?
Comes up again later.
Right. And if you look at that and understand how Google operates in America, do they ever support the
the government? Yeah, they do.
No, the conservative piece of this, right?
Never.
Yeah. So they never support the people that the CIA doesn't want supported.
Oh, right. No, their regime, their syndicate, right?
Right.
Google.
And we
Yeah.
already have established that the CIA doesn't like Chavez and Maduro.
Right.
What's the Google guy doing there? Okay.
He was working with the director of the ID center, and they did something called an identity mission. They called someone at the Frente Francisco de Miranda to help them find the additional voters needed, and they supplied us with people with multiple IDs so that they could vote at multiple locations. Now, isn't the whole crux of their stolen election system that they don't need to have people with multiple IDs voting multiple times because they can just flip the votes?
Right.
Isn't that the whole concept of the steal? And now they're like, oh yeah, we need to make all these fake IDs to give to all these people so that they can
So
vote.
this is 2003.
Yeah.
So what's interesting about
They created the central thing in like 2006, right? Started building it and then launched it in 2006. So they would have needed this back then, I think. Sorry, Colonel, go ahead.
But that Frente Francisco de Miranda was created June 29, 2003. So I think their unofficial agenda is to throw this entity under the bus is because this entity was very much aligned with the anti-imperialist agenda of the Chavez and Maduro president. They were supportive of Chavez and Maduro's presidency because their agenda is basically anti-imperialist. They were specifically targeted by Hakuna Matata and the CIA with the USAID money.
So you said that the Frente Francisco de Miranda was created June 29th, 2003?
Yes.
But in 2003, the National Electoral Council folks under the guidance of Jose Jorge reached out to that entity that was just created to help them find additional voters.
Yes.
Like you would think that it takes some time to get your organization established, scaled up, have the ability to rig elections. I mean, it's okay. I'm
still hung on what the fuck is Google doing there. All right, reading on. That is why when you look at the polling data from that referendum, you see all these people who have voted, who have no addresses. For their services, Smartmatic charged $100 million. $21 million went to pay for the machines by Olivetti. And because the government owned 28% of the software company, Vista, that 28% was used to pay off politicians. Olivetti's interesting because, Ash, you and I dug into that a little bit when we were reading the transcript and the bribes that came from the Italians. It seemed like when we were looking at that the Italians had quite a bit to do with this, and they didn't really disclose that in the testimony. Olivetti, I think, was a manufacturing company. They made computers, and they also did something with telecommunications, I believe. So kind of interesting there.
What happened next?
Smartmatic started to get contracts to run elections in other countries. They moved into the U.S. with the acquisition of Sequoia, the three engineers.
Didn't they start in the U.S.?
Yes.
Technically, yes. But they're saying that their first contract was in Venezuela.
No, they're saying they moved into the U.S. with the acquisition of Sequoia.
Which is a bold-faced lie.
Which is a contradiction from what they said earlier in the book.
To be fair, I think they're saying they moved into there in terms of doing business. Obviously, they originated here, Delaware.
So they didn't just move in.
Right, but I think they moved in in terms of like Sequoia. By buying Sequoia, they took in some election
but that's several years later.
Yeah.
They were founded here. They didn't move in here by that purchase. They were already here.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. The three engineers who founded the company were being directed by individuals in the regime. One of them was the father-in-law of Alfredo Anzola, who was one of the directors. His cousin, Primo, was the Venezuela ambassador to the United States. Alfredo was also the lover of Delcy Rodriguez, who is the brother of Jorge Rodriguez and has held many positions high in the Chavez government. They're the ones who made the connection to Sequoia. When they bought Sequoia, they disguised the fact that source code was still owned by Venezuela.
Okay, so let's go back. Now,
break down this family tree.
Yeah. So if you were going to write a legitimate book, would you leave out the names of these people? When again, I'm an avid reader. When people write real books, not this piece of crap, they actually say one of them was the father-in-law of Alfredo Anzola, and they would then in parentheses or a comma put the guy's name, right?
Yeah.
That guy's name, the father-in-law, is Jose Antonio Herrera, just so that the audience knows. I'll do the author's job for him. And the cousin is Bernardo Alvarez Herrera. So that you have, that's the guy that was the U.S. The Venezuelan ambassador to the U.S. So I just want to fill in what the author decides to leave out. Again,
and before that, the sentence before that, the 3 engineers who founded the company were being directed by individuals in the regime. There's no receipt or information provided about how we know that. And also, those 3 engineers we would think would be the names of the same guys that have been the engineers all along. But later in, it's either this chapter or the chapter that follows this, they named 3 different engineers. One of them is Hyder Garcia.
This is Piñate, Mujica.
We think, but later on, the ones that developed the code involve Hyder Garcia later in this.
Yeah, but well, it says the 3 engineers who founded the company. So this would be Smartmatic, and I think that's Piñate, Mujica.
But we still don't get the directed by individuals in the regime. We get no sourcing on that. It's just an assumption.
Right. We don't. That's the key right there, because I think that might be one of the first times that they claim that those 3 men were directed by the regime. Again, referring to, going back to what Colonel said when we talked about this, you don't flee Venezuela to open a company that's going to do business in Venezuela in America. There is way too much risk involved in bringing a company to a foreign country and then exporting your product to another country. You just created so many more additional hurdles to export a product to a foreign country, especially one that has critical infrastructure. Well, they don't deem it critical infrastructure, but that type of implication, unless the goal is to somehow get it picked up by our own intelligence apparatus here, or whoever's rigging elections here, to bring them on along with it. And so when they say they're at the who founded the company being directed by individuals in the regime, what regime? Because it definitely isn't the Maduro regime, because that would make no sense to make them go over there for that.
Exactly. Okay. The other thing that I want to reemphasize is the Alfredo was the lover of Delcy Rodriguez. Again,
just slander, scandal.
I went and searched again today.
Hey, Colonel, I have plenty enough tinnitus already. Is there any way I can get you?
Figure out how I told them I'm on a podcast. It's my daughter. I have no idea on this how to. My phone is silenced, but I have no idea how to do it on my MacBook. I am so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I'll just have to.
Can you right click on the tab where your chat is and mute it?
But don't forget
right clicking on Mac is not a thing.
Maybe if I just quit the messages, it'll stop doing that. Okay, I just did that. So Alfredo was also the lover of Delcy Rodriguez. I just checked again today on all the sites in that are the prominent media sites in Venezuela and the surrounding area. No tabloid mention of it, no anything. And you can imagine that if you have someone, she's at this time, she's
The president.
No, she wasn't back then.
Oh.
But she was one
right.
of the insiders. And she was kind of on a meteorite type ascension into power at the time. And you can find lots of dirts on these websites about just about gosh dang it. Sorry. Lots of dirt about all of the politicians in Venezuela, way more than you ever want to read. Not that. So
interesting. Maybe that's just a no-fly zone. Isn't Anzola the one that they said was killed? They tortured him. Isn't he the one that was tortured?
Well, he was in a plane crash, and then he crawled away, and then he went to the hospital, and then he left the hospital, and then he was tortured. I think that's how that went. Yeah. But Delcy Rodriguez is the president now. Mm-hmm. If there was this kind of scandal, wouldn't it be at least in one obscure conspiracy tabloid somewhere on the internet?
And again, just to be fair, there's a lot of opposition press, especially at this time. Some of the major opposition press was ran and paid for by USAID through Hakuna Matata initiatives in Venezuela, writing all kinds of raggy shit about the Chavez and Maduro's presidency. Nothing even in them.
Yeah.
Just saying.
The other interesting part, remember the comparison I was just making between the three engineers opening it in Florida to do business in Venezuela. Now we have Venezuelans orchestrating the sale of an American company to Americans because they say they're the ones who made the connection to Sequoia. So the Rodriguezes, Delcy and Jorge, and maybe Anzola are the ones that
possibly Jose.
And possibly Jose. Maybe Eddie Coomer's working for Sequoia at the time. And they're the ones who made that connection. So you just have like a smorgasbord of what the bleep in this. All right, let's keep going.
What was the first election that Smartmatic ran in the U.S.?
The 2008 Democratic Party primary in Cook County, Illinois, in Chicago. That was the first election where Obama appeared. The name of the voting machines they used was DRE. That's not a name. The name of the voting machines they used was DRE. That's a type, not a name.
Yeah, I just want to just note that in this section where he's talking about this, I wrote in the margin, this is the plot of Scandal Season 2. Yeah. Later in the chapter, we have the plot of the last season of Veep.
I haven't seen Veep, so.
Oh, you should watch Veep. You would like it.
All right. So the name of the machine they used was DRE, which is a direct recording electronic voting machine. It records votes by means of a ballot display provided with mechanical or electro-optical components that can be activated by the voter. Those machines used to win the election for Obama. They had been used for the U.S. for a while, pero software installed and used in the Cook County primary was 100% made in Venezuela. They steal the elections in Venezuela. Once the software was installed, we moved some of the machines to Colorado to do some tests. They returned to Venezuela, but there was a problem. Lots of problems, muchos problemos, they say. The software was not working properly, so some of the engineers flew back to the States to check on the problem. This was 10 days before the primary. I'm getting very Jamaican with my accent.
It's actually starting to sound like you're a Latinx Trump.
I am. That's what I'm doing on purpose, by the way. I'm doing the Trump. Trump embellishment.
Latinxist Trump. I love it.
That's on purpose. Roger Piñate, who was just indicted in Miami, terrible man, was running that operation. They got the software working, and Obama won by a large margin. It was mucho successful. So let's see. I had highlighted in here. They'd been used in the U.S. for a while, but software installed and used in the Cook County primary was 100% made in Venezuela. Now, I didn't fact check that, but that would be fucking nuts to me. If they're like, oh, yeah, let's just completely pull this software out of here, put in an unknown origin software, because clearly they don't know it's from Venezuela, and let's run this primary in Chicago using this software that nobody knows where the hell its origins came from. I mean, that is very concerning. And then your junior senator from Illinois, who had, I think, 2 years in the Senate, was a no-name nobody before that, skyrockets to the U.S. presidency.
So if you were the CIA, and we know the CIA background of Obama, and you want him in the presidency, and you are working through that to ensure this happens, wouldn't you do exactly what he just described? And let me just say this. If you look at the Obama presidency, right, because that's what this is all leading to, you know that in 2014, Obama is the one that implemented the sanctions, and in 2015 froze all the assets of Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
That's
so they just shot themselves in the foot, but it was for a good cause?
Supposedly, they shot themselves in the foot, unless it's the CIA.
Unless it was never them in the first place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the CIA is the one that's wanting all of that shit done that Obama did.
Yeah. This and when was it that SGO Corp took over Smartmatic? I think it wasn't it 2014?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure it was 2014 when SGO took them over. Fact check me.
Yeah, look at that.
I'm telling you, there's two phases of Smartmatic. There's the Venezuelan American control, the three engineers in America, and then there's the globalist control. And you can see clear as day you can distinguish between which entity is which, just based on all the things that happen.
But I would say that that's kind of like the CIA and the globalist CIA.
Right.
Yeah.
It could be. The CIA groomed it. They kind of, fed it and watered it and got it blooming. And now it's this perfect entity. Let's hand it over to the globalist. And here you go. Yeah. I can get behind that. 2014, Ash?
Yeah, it talks about I'm looking at the DOJ. It talks about the conduct between 2015 and 2018 of Peñate. So 2014 is probably right, but I'm struggling to find.
Wait, just Google, when did SGO Corp acquire Smartmatic? You can ask Perplexity. It should only take 2 seconds. I'm pretty sure it was 2014. My mind is so loaded with shit now that
I know. That's the way my brain is.
It's hard for me to discern between what
November 2014.
2014. Okay. So yeah, that's right in line with that, Colonel.
Yep.
All right, keep going, Ash.
What was the next election that used Smartmatic software? By the way, shout out to Pizzullo for the hard-hitting follow-up questions.
I mean, this is assuming that this is verbatim how the interview went. I would hope it is, but it might not be.
Just wait till we get to where the interview ends.
Oh, I know. They did the poll books for elections in Bolivia and Mexico. It's the book you use to verify the citizenship, the voters. It records every registered voter, which party and who they voted for in past elections. It can be manipulated, and it can be used to tamper with the elections too.
After Smartmatic bought Sequoia, did you transfer to the new company?
So
no.
Can I just clarify on the Bolivia one? They only use the biometric registration piece of that. They use no voting machines of Smartmatic. Just wanted to put that out there.
Do you know, did you happen to look up and see who they did use or how they voted? Oh, okay.
No.
Because that's interesting too, because we talked about this in an earlier chapter that so many of these countries utilize Smartmatic for biometric acknowledge, registration and check-in.
Yes.
As opposed to voting machines. And you got to wonder why that is.
Yes.
And the only thing I can think of, because it's difficult to make up ballots and have more ballots and it's difficult to make up voters and say that the voters exist when you don't have a sufficient number of ballots, but it's easy to say you have X number of ballots. Well, then let's do X minus Y number of votes cast and control the outcome that way. So you actually undersell how many people voted if you're able to control the registration, and the check-in. Maybe.
When I looked at it before, when I was going through country by country and was looking at the ones that used only the biometrics, the majority of them used hand ballots. They just used the biometrics, I think nefariously, to collect the data on the citizens in the country. Because in Bolivia, it was basically mandated that everybody, whether you were going to actually vote or not, had to register in the system. So I think it was more of a kind of a culling operation, but many of them actually still used the manual vote processes. So,
well, we'll also learn that it could just be an utter false sense of security. Yeah, we'll learn that here in a second. No, I remained with Smartmatic, and even when Smartmatic had to divert itself of Sequoia, divest itself of Sequoia, and they were bought by Dominion. The software to run the elections was still owned by Smartmatic, and there's lots of communication between the two companies.
When you run an election in the U.S., like the one in Cook County, who decides who the winner will be?
Es una decisión de político.
It's a political decision, is what it says.
That is a political decision.
What do you mean?
The results is determined by the, ¿cómo se dice? Political entity. I'm having too much fun with this.
Muy bien.
The results is determined by the political entity in the United States, Estados Unidos, with the most money. Imagine that tú es Smartmatica. When I come to you as a political entity or party in a particular country, you say, I can sell you the election machines and provide you with the data that will help you win the elections.
I see.
That is what happened in the Philippines in the 2007.
Okay. And it happens the same way in U.S. elections?
Sí. Por ejemplo, the Democratic Party or people backing the Democratic Party will go to Dominion and say, we need help in such and such district. If you hire me and we reach a good sales agreement and you have enough money, I can help you with the election. But you have to be very smart in choosing which countries and states to target, because there are some where you cannot do this.
Yeah. So my margin note is, where the fuck are these defamation cases? Like, oh yeah, you just call Dominion and you're like, we want you to rig the election for us in these certain places, and if you can pay them enough money, then they'll do it for you. Like, what? People have been sued by Dominion for way less than that.
Exactly.
And what's interesting to me about that whole conversation there is, so they're saying that the people that back the Democrat Party is basically aggregately paying for this, but that's not even how our elections are done, right? The only population eligible is the ones that already have bought these machines. So if, like, we don't even use those machines here in Florida, right? So you're not buying any.
So the concept that they're saying is you only need to control a handful of counties to control our elections for president.
Right. But we use that, what is it? ES&G?
ES&S, yeah.
Yeah. So is Florida just like not playing in this fake election stuff?
We have some, well, ES&S is equally as bad. We have some, and
no, I know that, but they're not, it doesn't have the little black box that's magically in the C&E.
Well, you get it first. You have to take out the whole idea that Venezuela is stealing our elections, because that's utterly retarded.
I know.
You also have to take out the idea that it's single-handedly done by servers in any particular country, because there's a lot of shit that has to be done on the ground in order to also, promulgate this
No,
fraud.
but I'm just talking about aggregately. They're presenting this as if you go to the DNC and you say, "Hey, do you want to buy the election?" But this software is not used everywhere in the United States. So you've already narrowed yourself down to, do you want to buy your elections in these areas that use this software, right?
And set aside the president, because there's the Congress and the Senate that they also steal. There's ballot measures. There's all manner of things. And to Colonel's point, it's a very limited footprint of where these capabilities exist.
Right. That's my whole point.
Yeah.
They're presenting it as if they control the election for the president in the United States, and they can basically sell it to the Republican Party one cycle, sell it to the Democrat Party, but they can't, because this system that's contaminated, we're assuming, isn't in everywhere, right? It's only in particular.
But the point they're making is that our elections, like if you look at the way that our country is portrayed to us, right? California is blue no matter what. Texas is red no matter what. Florida recently has been red no matter what. So you have like all of the strongholds throughout. So our election boils down to Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, maybe North Carolina. There's a couple other states. And when you reduce those places down to their fundamentals, it revolves around Detroit, Wayne County. It revolves around Brown County in Wisconsin, Maricopa County in Arizona, Philadelphia. And
so does all of those pivotal areas use Smartmatic or Sequoia?
No, but didn't they say at one point, I was just looking for it and it's going to take me too long to find it, but didn't they talk about, retarded book advocate at this point, but didn't they talk about the source code through mergers and acquisitions and divestitures basically ending up in all of the technology companies, ES&S and HART as well? And doesn't Hyder Garcia work for HART InterCivic?
Hyder worked for HART, yes. ES&S is relatively clean in terms of that. They got bought, Diebold. They got Diebold. Dominion bought Diebold from ES&S, but ES&S has never been owned by Dominion. To Colonel's point, Wayne County is Dominion. A lot of Wisconsin, I don't want to say most, I don't know for sure, is Dominion. Maricopa is Dominion. All of Georgia, every single county in Georgia is Dominion. A lot of Pennsylvania.
But again, that's just the presidency, Brian.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can also control the Senate race. The one that's the hard one to steal is Congress.
You could in 2021 on January 5th, when that specific Senate race happened, but if you could ostensibly have a battleground Senate seat that was necessary, that's not in a battleground state, or that's not in a Dominion state, couldn't you?
Well, we had a lot of GOP senators in 2024 that lost in states that Trump won.
I mean, what I'm hearing is that the central premise of this iteration of the steal requires the limiting factor of the presidency. It's like this: we steal elections to steal the presidency, but we don't have like the ability to steal them down to the ballot issue. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do. But I think there's a lot of infrastructure on the ground, domestic to the United States that enables that. These NGOs to get out the votes, the vote by mails, all of that stuff is a massive factor. And I would say that those can probably overcome the machines, just because you can make enough of a wake with those things that you can't overcome the risk limiting audits and things that take place, to ensure the votes after the fact. You don't want to risk doing it. You don't want to get caught with your hand in the cookie jar. In terms of what they're doing, and from the globalist perspective, the president is the most important out of all of them, because the president dictates the rest. He dictates the tempo for the country because of the amount of power we've, invoked in the presidency. And it should not be that much. The president should be nowhere as revered as they are, and have as much power.
Yeah,
as
I agree with you. I just think that's irrelevant. I think that the presidency being the most important election to steal by the people that steal elections does not, it is irrelevant when we're talking about the capability to steal elections, because they have the capability to steal elections, fake voters, fake ballots, fake counts, all working together down to the local level. And this book, as I'm reading and understanding the testimony of Source One in this hard-hitting interview in which his testimony is taken, I'm hearing limiting factor of this ability to steal elections is it's built for and focused on stealing the presidency, not necessarily stealing elections broadly.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I think it's still me.
Where were we?
Bottom of 227. Oh, top of 228. It's a matter of patience and strategy. It takes a lot of time to plan, and that is where the expertise of Dominion comes in. You give us control of the election in a certain country, and we give you the result that that you want. But the person or entity or country that hires Dominion has to know what counties they need to control the election. There are over 3,000 election districts or counties in the U.S. You probably only need to control a handful. You have to know which districts they are. You have to do the analysis first. Primero, first. Dominion cannot determine the results of a general election all on its own.
Okay, so now we're getting into I'll stop just a second. The next part of this is the last season of Veep. Go ahead, Colonel.
So up at the top where it says it takes a lot of time to do this, we just talked about at the beginning of this chapter how supposedly this whole process was done in less than a few months when they did the referendum, right? Because they
1 month.
Yeah. So, it takes a lot of time, but then it doesn't. Okay, go ahead.
But they had Google involved with that. So.
Yeah.
You googly. So who hires Dominion in your experience?
There might be 2 or 3 buyers, but you only need one. You only need uno, just one. The China. The Chinese government, they pay more money than anybody else. They pay because the result of a U.S. presidential election, it changes el mundo, changes the world.
And
what does that mean?
Well, that's what I was saying before about the president has way too much power, and all that these globalists that are controlling elections care about is the presidency, and the China is the highest buyer, is the highest bidder.
So the Chinese are coming to America to a county that's a pivotal race and paying Dominion to determine our president.
There's no bidding war between China and Russia and Iran and Google and the World Economic Forum and McKinsey. Like, none of these guys are battling it out in a way that there will be a footprint of or some sort of receipts.
That's
even the dark web,
to the point that Colonel Towner made earlier in the book. There is no way that a mid-level, even a high-level engineer would be privy to these kinds of conversations.
None.
There's not a chance in hell. Of all the people in Smartmatic, there's maybe 1 or 2 people in Smartmatic that would be negotiating this deal with China if this were actually happening. And this would be some back deal, shady ass shit, like Jack Ryan, Tom Clancy shit. This would not be something that everybody in the company is like, oh yeah, China. Hey guys, we got a race. China bid $30 billion. Let's go. No, that's not happening.
It feels a little bit more like Carrie Matheson, Saul Berenson to me, but sure. Same vibes.
Yeah. We're supposed to believe that this little engineer guy knows all of this dirt.
And they let him out of the country talking to an American journalist or an American writer, not journalist.
So I was a little hopeful reading this on the page before when it says the result is determined by the political entity in the United States with the most money. Imagine you are Smartmatic. When I come to you as a political entity or party in a particular country, you say, I can sell you the election machines and provide you with the data that will help you win elections. A political entity in the United States. So who's hiring Dominion? China.
China. Right. You go from, that's a great point, Ash. Great point. You go from it's the Democrats or it's the Republicans to it's China.
Yeah.
Venezuela.
And I would be more inclined to believe this book if they said there are a ton of political entities doing business with Smartmatic. They show up, you pay the right fee, and you can get your ballot measure, you can get your local race, you can get your judge put in, you can get whatever kinds of things that you need. That's what I think is going on. I think there's some level of manipulation and control, and maybe it's at the party level. So it's as a platform, we're going to lean this way versus lean that way. Maybe it's the parties are bullshit. So maybe it's, populist versus people we control. That's likely too. What's not likely is it's limited to the president and it's fucking China.
Yeah.
Excuse my language. And you've seen direct evidence of this. China interfering in U.S. elections.
See, and I've been in meetings in Venezuela where they discuss these things.
Okay, so it's China in Venezuela.
Yeah.
And this guy's in a meeting.
Russia,
they just
China.
have
And this guy's in the meeting.
an open meeting, a Zoom call. Anybody can join, guys. Get on in here. Oh, man. All right.
Who attends these meetings?
Jorge Rodriguez and the inner circle of the Venezuelan regime.
So the current leadership of Venezuela.
And this guy and the engineer.
And source one.
Yeah. Despite all the safeguards in your election system and the audits, the source code used in the Dominion voting machine is owned and controlled by people in Venezuela. You can change the visuals, the language, but the source code, the process the machines follow, is still the same and controlled by Venezuela.
Stuff like that makes no sense. It just doesn't make sense from a technology
This is so
standpoint.
retarded.
Then why does Dominion say that they didn't borrow anything from the source code used by Smartmatic?
Porque what they did is that they took all of the functionalities that they needed from Smartmatic, the source code, and they put it in a new language. Imagine you're recording a song and you're dancing and sing and then dance, and you have the melody, but you want to change the beats. The new recording sounds different, but the melody is the same. When Dominion is confronted and they say it's not the same source code as the one used by Smartmatic or Sequoia, they're not really telling the truth, but the judge won't understand, and he or she won't know the difference because they don't know technology. Ceros y unos, zeros.
No
and
comprende.
ones.
So
The
it's in a secret room, in a secret box that
Making music.
that has been completely rewritten in a new language, but it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
The architecture is the same, and we did have somebody confirm that a couple weeks ago when we were talking about that. They said the architecture can absolutely be the same from language to language, so that is possible. The architecture is the same, the flow chart is the same, but hey, they changed the programming language, the architecture, the flow chart, the essence is still owned and controlled by the Venezuelans.
So we were told, I think, a couple of weeks ago that the architecture can be the same, and you're translating one programming code to another programming code. What we did not get confirmation is that that the integration of those changes from a technology standpoint would just happen. That you can change the programming language, and points with the end user where the software is in play, that those changes to the programming language would logically flow downstream through the ecosystem and the entire architecture. I don't think that we have confirmation of that, and that just does that. Somebody tell me how it makes sense, because it does not make sense to me.
So also in computer languages generally, because you're still going to have to manipulate the new language, right? That interface, you're still going to have to have some cognizant knowledge of that new language in order for your changes so that you don't have a meltdown like they had in Cook County, right? And what I find very interesting from my experience is engineers generally specialize in particular languages, right? They're not like multilingual. They don't go from like the one computer programming to another one like interchangeably. But we're talking to supposedly the guys that know everything about the original Smartmatic and the languages that is used in the original programming. And they're the experts on this new infrastructure type language that has been overlaid on this. And I just find all of that not believable. But
agreed. What is their motivation?
Political power. Yes. See, Jorge Rodriguez and members of the regime in Venezuela, they do it to make more money. But what is more important to them is to undermine the electoral process in Estados Unidos y other countries.
Yeah, this goes back to that, the net effects of their political power. Have they been successful in attaining political power? No, not really. Unless looking like they don't have any is their ultimate op. And all of the decisions go against their wishes because secretly they rule the world.
yes.
Right? Got it. Have you ever met Frank Holder or seen him in any meetings?
No, but I've heard about him. He lurks in the shadows, that son of a beach. And his involvement, I heard he likes la pinga. Mucho gusta la pinga.
What?
Pinga cubana.
What do you think is the likelihood that our next presidential election in 2024 will be tampered with?
100%. Escúchame. 100%. It might be your last election because the whole system of control is in place. People don't understand how it works. It's very sophisticated and it's evolving and changing all the time. They have that process in the external connections. For example, in Maricopa County, Arizona, in 2020 and 2022, because it is a Republican county, they loaded it with voting machines that they knew would malfunction. So lots of Republican voters were turned away and didn't vote, and Democrats, they won. The people who are responsible for protecting the vote are way behind in terms of understanding technology. They don't understand what they're dealing with. It's a sophisticated virus. It continually mutates. It continually mutates. Aye, good eye, mate. I don't know. Is a sophisticated virus that continually mutates and looks for weakness. It's a monster that is eating us up. It only takes a few countries and a handful of people to steal a presidential election, but you have to plan about a year ahead.
Just what? The So lots of Republican voters were turned away and didn't vote, and the Democrats won. I just wrote LOL. 2020 and 2022 were different elections with different tactics of election fraud used in Maricopa County.
At least
it was, in my opinion,
it was Dominion in Maricopa County.
In my opinion, they had to do the drawer 3 paper ballot image size thing in 2022 to force the off-site because they couldn't do what they did in 2020 because everybody knew what they did in 2020.
Agreed.
So, was the supervisor of elections in Maricopa County Republican or Democrat?
Republican.
Oh,
In 2022, he was Republican. In 2020, he was a Democrat.
okay.
And he became the Secretary of State. The
Okay.
2021 became the Secretary of State. The 2022 one lost his election in 2024. So there.
So do
I
you
think
do you think that they would they're obviously saying 2022 was rigged when the Republican won. How'd that happen?
I have no problem with that because it's a uniparty and Democrats and Republicans are
I know.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just saying. So
No, the Republican didn't win in 2022.
I thought you said the supervisor of election.
He won in 2020. He beat Stephen Richer beat Adrian Fontes in 2020. They have 4-year terms, and Richer ran again in 2024 and lost to what's his name, Jody Hayes. What's the guy's name there?
And Fontes was the incumbent, right?
Fontes was the incumbent.
Right. So in 2020, the administration of the 2020 election was Adrian Fontes, who went on to become AG or
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State. And Stephen Richer, the clerk.
Right. So Fontes. So just to be clear, Fontes lost an election in the biggest county in Arizona by a landslide. Huge, not the election by a landslide. Maricopa is the biggest county in Arizona by a landslide. Like no other counties, like all the other ones put together don't add up to Maricopa County. And then he goes on to win a statewide race, including carrying Maricopa County 2 years later.
Yeah.
Please.
The other thing that I take exception with is the people who are responsible for protecting the vote are way behind in terms of understanding technology. No, fuck all the way off. They are not. The U.S. Cyber Command and the capabilities of Americans to understand cyber defenses are not this stupid Americans. We just can't imagine how brilliant the Venezuelans are. Fuck all the way off.
Yep. And yeah, like Rebel Nader says in the chat, they're not Democrats and Republicans, they're criminals. Yes, you have to separate. Like the R and the D next to their name, do not get excited about that because just take the little R part and just curve it into a D because they're all big D's.
Yeah.
Chop off the legs of the R and you kind of got a D.
Chop off. Well, the R, if you look at the R.
Trans the R into a D.
I was going to say the little thing coming off the R.
Uniparty affirming care, Brian.
It's un pequeña pinga.
I think it's hard for people here to understand the depth of foreign interference in our elections.
You can't do this without the complicity of certain oficials in los Estados Unidos.
That's the only part of this whole book I've agreed with.
Some of them need to be bought.
Do you have any idea who these officials are?
For one, the governor of the state of Georgia. He goes by the name Brian Kemp. Brian Kemp. Okay. He won't allow for the software of Dominion to be updated, even though he knows that the software is flawed and allows for third-party access. Why is that? ¿Por qué eso? You can always improve an automated system, but the politicians, they have to be willing to change the laws.
And after that whole thing, no, let's just finish this for a second. After that whole thing, then we get that, like, finally names governor of Georgia. What does Ralph Pizzullo follow up with? Thank you for your bravery in coming forward.
Muchas gracias, señor.
No follow-up questions?
How about
nothing?
How about what we just did with Mark Cook on Friday's Why We Vote when he got cut off in the Georgia legislature? Says it was an accident. They say it was an accident. It was a technical glitch, human error. But what specifically did he get cut off from saying? That these systems have backdoor access and that they know about it and that the testing companies overlook it. Yeah. They cut that out of his public comment.
Okay.
As this book is being, was already printed.
Imagine how sophisticated they are.
saying that Brian Kemp won't update the software, even though he knows it's flawed and allows for third-party access.
So the mic cutting off was similar to the mic being cut off of Trump at the UN and the escalator, and that's all an accident. Yeah, those
it only happens on the good parts, Colonel.
Yeah,
it only happens on the good parts.
Yeah.
One more thing on that last bit. He won't allow for the software of Dominion to be updated, even though he knows that the software is flawed and allows for third-party access. Well, if the software is the vehicle for the source code that allows you to manipulate elections, wouldn't updating it be a bad idea?
Well, so the update I think they're talking about is when Halderman put out his
patches,
patches. And by the way, patches, no, because you can work around the patches.
Yeah.
But Brad Raffensperger's excuse was that it would take way too long. But before the 2020 election, they did an update to every single machine in the county, in the state overnight. But
we
9
just
months would
spent
have been
this
too long.
much of a book talking about how you can't detect or know or anything that this devious source code exists inside of these machines. The source code's language, programming language can change into a totally different programming language. Same architecture, same capability, same functionality, but different language. They can somehow deploy that shit without any actual deployment, we are told. It's always evolving. It's always mutating. It is a monster that is eating us up. And Brian Kemp won't do the standard patching that Alex Halderman recommends, so that makes him a bad actor.
The whole premise of this book is there's a black box source code that cannot be touched, even by changing programming language, but a update to the software would fix it.
Yeah, and then the second part, you can always improve an automated system, but politicians have to be willing to change the laws. Why? After what we've just learned about this whole book, why do politicians have to change? How could politicians changing laws have affect this ecosystem in any way whatsoever? And how does this guy not have any follow-up questions after that last paragraph?
The secret black box in Venezuela that controls the world's elections.
It's all very stupid.
I can't wait for the next chapter. To your point, Ash, I think what maybe they're implying is that the backdoor access is how they're able to manipulate and use the source code by having that backdoor access, whether it's Serbia, whether it's Venezuela, which the next chapter is going to completely mindfuck everybody.
But J. Alex Halderman is an American, right? So how is he both not able to understand, way behind on understanding technology vulnerabilities, and also recommending the ways to close the back doors that are going to give us real elections?
I mean, there's a possibility that those are just some minor things that he was able to observe, being able to change QR codes and stuff like that. It still doesn't get down to the brass tacks of being able to flip votes the way that Mark did on our show Friday night. That's something like, if you have remote access, you don't even need the USB stick that Mark put in the machine. You just go on and do it manually. You just,
But they do have, I think it's already been proven that they do have remote access.
Oh, I know. I agree.
Yeah.
Coffee County,
breaking.
Yeah, right. The warning that you guys got in Colorado, make sure your machine doesn't accidentally connect to the internet. Somebody sent me a picture of ES&S machines down in Miami-Dade from like 2022, where it's like literally the green button in the top right-hand corner saying internet ready, like internet connective. Like it was a green light, like internet good to go. Like, that these aren't supposed to be connected to the internet. It's all bullshit. The whole fucking thing is bullshit. Mm-hmm. And what they're saying there about changing the laws, that's one thing that is absolutely true, is that we don't have politicians with guts to take away the technology that is enslaving us. They don't have the guts to do it. Why? Because they're benefactors of it. They know that it's how it gets them elected. So
But
if you push against the system, they'll ruin you. Because if you're not successful, if you push against the system and you're not successful, you're fucked. They're gonna destroy you. The system will eat you alive.
Yeah, I think this is just another iteration of this book not making sense.
I agree. And I mean, Ashe pointing out the contradictions between it's the party with the most money, it's China, within 5 paragraphs of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to your point about, they're spineless and they won't pass. First of all, I don't think it's spineless. It shows actually great fortitude to not do what the people want right now. It's ballsy. Let's see how it works out for them. But going back to the Thomas Paine quote, common sense will tell us that the power which has endeavored to subdue us is of all others the most improper to defend us. So it's getting beyond impossible to defend reforming this election system as if anything like that would be possible. I think we skipped an ad, right? Yeah.
Spring has sprung at Tamarack Garden. Time for your body to bloom with pure plant-powered magic. Kick off your spring glow up with the best-selling Detox Collection. It lovingly supports your kidneys, liver, and lymphatic system, flushing out winter junk for fresh energy, clarity, and that vibrant spring vibe. Then hit the sun safely. Their nourishing sunscreen packed with skin-loving plants and natural SPF tinted with cocoa for instant golden glow. No white residue, just radiant you. Protect against mosquitoes and ticks the natural way with their DEET-free plant-powered bug spray. Safe and effective family protection. Their herbal lineup includes eases headaches, allergies, anxiety, and more, all handcrafted by a fun family in North Idaho since 2021. From local wild weeds and wildflowers, reclaim your health one plant at a time with Tamarack Garden. Visit tamarackgarden.com and use promo code Badlands to get $10 off a $50 order. I was last time I read that, Colonel, I was saying, I wonder if it works on no-see-ums.
Oh, would that not be nice?
That would be beautiful. I mean, that's a West Coast thing, but
Yeah, going RVing and those damn no-see-ums. I mean, we were just down in your neck of the woods in Fort Pierce, and there were places you couldn't even stand.
Oh yeah. People have no idea. Good.
Okay, we started this episode with President Trump's executive order. Jonestown Jenna Griswold has issued a response to it. Do you want to hear it?
Absolutely.
Okay. Statement from Secretary of State Jenna Griswold on Trump elections executive order. Denver, Colorado. Today, President Trump signed an executive order mandating the creation of a nationwide citizenship eligibility list and requiring the United States Postal Service to only receive mail ballots from specific individuals. Colorado Secretary of State Jenna Griswold has issued the following statement. This executive order is undemocratic, unconstitutional, and dangerous. Trump once again is trying to unlawfully exert influence on states' elections in an effort to hold on to power in the upcoming midterm elections, this time by creating a Trump voter list. While Trump says mail-in ballots are illegitimate, he has voted by mail ballot for years. The Constitution is clear. States oversee elections, not Trump. We look forward to this unconstitutional overreach being stopped in court. This is the second executive order Donald Trump has issued directly related to election administration. The previous order has been the subject of numerous legal challenges and largely enjoined by 3 federal courts. In Colorado, every active voter is mailed a ballot. Eligible individuals who register up to 8 days before an election are sent a mail ballot, and eligible individuals may register to vote and vote in person up until the polls close at 7 p.m. on election day. End message.
I can't wait to see how this thing's going to be challenged.
I know. I love that all of this shit is happening in my state with the people that I hate the most.
Before we get out of here, I just saw something a little crazy. Did you guys see what Matt Gaetz said on Benny Johnson's show today about aliens?
Yeah.
Oh, I vaguely. Someone sent me that when I was trying to cram this stupid chapter for this book, and I was like, I can't deal with this right now. I'll read it later.
Just check this out. I would say more, but unfortunately, everything I know about the alien hybrid program is classified. Let's just say some of you would be very surprised who's not entirely human. That's all I'm authorized to disclose at this time. Senator Ralph Babbitt, Victoria, Australia.
Well, what?
An Australian senator on his official X account, his official government account, coming on and saying you'd be surprised at who's mixed with aliens. Let me just start out. Who's that former mayor of Chicago? What was her name?
Lori Lightfoot.
Lori Lightfoot. That motherfucker ain't real. That motherfucker ain't real.
Have you seen her original picture? Have you ever seen both of her pictures from when she was like 25 or 30 compared to what she looked like as Beetlejuice? She's actually a very pretty woman earlier in her
Talking about Lightfoot
career. There are posts of both of them, both pictures. I don't know what it is now, but she didn't look anything like that earlier in her career.
I thought you were talking about that motherfucker is not real chick who also looked like two different people before and after that whole event. Wow.
I mean,
Dangers of government.
No, there's another picture. That's a lot younger. There's a picture of her when she was like 25 or 30. But I agree, if there was somebody that was going to be a candidate for that video that Matt Gaetz put out, she would be the one I'd pick too.
You know who she looks like is Admiral Akbar.
You know how in The Quiet Place?
It's a trap. It's a trap. I'm just saying. If we're gonna start unpacking who's real and who's not, Elon's up there. Elon, that motherfucker ain't real.
You know how in The Quiet Place, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, earmuffs, but in The Quiet Place, how it takes them right up till the end, and then they figure out what the appropriate way to defeat the thing. We need that. We need that thing that allows us to identify and zap them.
Can you imagine living in any other time than right now?
So good.
Have you guys ever watched the Y-Files about like the P50s and the P30s?
No.
So it's this like idea that there's two different alien species that are vying for control of the pace that humanity's on, and they're not aliens. They're actually from the future. And we go through a nuclear kind of Holocaust winter, which is prophesized in every TV show out right now. By the time we get out of it, there was a faction that went underground and there was a faction that stayed above ground. And the two entities both developed time travel, and they're both going back in time, trying to encourage the destruction or they didn't exist at the same time. They're two different timelines that deviated, and they're going back and both trying to exert their influence over the critical event. So as we get closer and closer to the critical event that set them on their two different timelines, they're both trying to push us in that direction, one towards peace, one towards nuclear obliteration. And, the idea is that they're able to, and this is, backed up by claims. Okay. None of them can be, validated or anything like that. But one of the species like lived underground for like 50,000 years. And these are all like tens of thousands of years in the future. So one of them lives underground, and that's why they look like aliens, because they grew huge eyes with no eyelids so that they could see at night. They lost all the pigmentation in their skin. Their body started deforming and get really skinny, but long arms and legs for, quick movement, but no strength. And then there's the other ones that are, lived in a utopia because they brought peace and the world was, great and everything like that. And so now they're two vying factions that are, trying to push us in those directions. And that makes more and more fucking sense every single time with everything going on right now. It's like, and Trump is clearly on one side of this, and there's clearly, the other side that's trying to push us in directions. So I might need to
want him to name names. So name names, Senator.
Ralph Babbitt from Victorian. Fascinating. So,
yeah.
All right, ladies.
Like that.
Great show. Can't wait for. Actually, we're
almost done. I'm so excited. We're almost done with this one. I'm so close.
I don't think we're gonna be able to, because I'll be traveling.
Oh, we're not gonna have a book club next week
unless we pre-record it on Monday, because I'll be traveling. So.
Okay, well, we can chat about that.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Get your Badlands Badlands Media, GART 11.
We have a exclusive live stream on Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. If you have a virtual ticket or an in-person ticket, you can join us. It's a lot of fun. We're going to announce the final panels or however close we are to the final panels. We'll probably argue about stuff too. It'll be a lot of fun. Badlandsmedia.tv/events. Come hang out with us in Nashville. At least come hang out with us in the chat. You won't regret it. It's going to be a blast.
I don't know where my bat boy is. Christy took it and put it somewhere.
I thought you took it off.
I did not take it off. She took it off saying that you can't see it anymore. And I'm like, the fuck you can't. It's right here.
Well, we can't see it.
I think I put him. Well, it was right here.
Colonel's like, get me the fuck out of here.
See you guys later. I'm out.
Bye, guys.
Patriots, the fight for truth doesn't stop at the screen. It's hitting the road again. Badlands Media is rolling into Nashville on April 9th through 12th for the next stop on the Great American Restoration Tour. Join your favorite Badlands hosts and like-minded Americans for 3 powerful days. Packed with unfiltered discussions, deep dive panels, and real debate. Hear the raw truth, ask the tough questions. No topic too hot, no question too bold. GART is where our community comes alive. Tickets are on sale now at badlandsmedia.tv/GART, where you can also grab a virtual pass and watch from home. Join us to question narratives and fight for America's future. Nashville's calling. The restoration continues. Get your passes today. See you in Music City.